Hey everybody, Adrian here with blendrecommender.com, which I am in the process of completely redesigning, so not a whole lot to see there if you go to the website right now, but I'm hoping here in the next few weeks I'm going to be able to add some new content, reintroduce old content and videos and different information about tobacco blends that it's just a fun project of mine, and I hope it's kind of an easy landing page for information about a lot of really good pipe tobacco blends. But anyway, I'm in the middle of completely redoing it, and I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to kind of review one of the blends that made it on my top pipe blends of 2016 list, and that is Esoterica Tilbury. I've smoked a few more bowls of that since doing that video a week ago, and it just keeps getting better for me. I've tried it in much more narrow bowls, tall, narrow bowls like a Dublin that I have, wider bowls like this 320, and I get a slightly different smoke. And I've read a lot of differing opinions on the flavor profile for this blend, and I think I understand where people are coming from if they're smoking it in a particular different pipe. And so I was actually talking to a friend of mine yesterday at the shop, and we were talking about the difference, the differences between cigars and exploring, that side of the hobby with premium tobacco and pipe tobacco. And one of the things that I've thought, and I talked to customers about for a long time, is within the flavor spectrum of cigars, where you have maybe your lighter Dominican tobaccos with a Connecticut wrapper, think like maybe like a Macanudo, something like that. I point people towards really light, buttery, creamy cigars when they're first starting out and they just want to get an idea of whether or not it's something they're going to enjoy. And then you can go up into more of the full-bodied, spicy, peppery cigars, and you get into more of the sun-grown wrappers and Maduros and things like that. And there's, even with that broad spectrum there, it's still so narrow compared to the spectrum of flavors that you get with pipe tobacco. Pipe tobacco, I mean, you go from a real bright citrusy Virginia to dark fire Kentucky, or a real Latakia heavy blend, and I mean we're just talking night and day between those two blends. And then that's not even factoring in aromatic blends, because there are flavored and infused cigars. So we'll just completely kind of take that out of the equation. And it also occurred to me that it's so obvious, but I haven't really thought about it too much before. I love cigars, and I do smoke them quite often, and there's something you can get from a cigar that you can't get from a pipe, and that is the actual feel and taste of the tobacco directly on your tongue, your lips. It's just not something that you're going to be able to get being slightly removed from the tobacco itself with a pipe. What you can get from a pipe that you cannot get from a cigar are variations in flavor depending on the size of the pipe and the material the pipe's made of. Now, different sizes of cigars, yes, different percentages from the wrapper tobacco to the filler and the binder, they will give you different flavor profiles, but still it's a pretty small spectrum. I've noticed really big differences. The same pipe tobacco blend from a really narrow, taller bowl, where that pipe tobacco is literally like in a little chimney, and it's getting stoked from the top, and I get the most, especially out of straight Virginias, I'll really get the most intense high notes from Virginias when I smoke out of a pipe that shape. Whereas it's probably, it's about gone out on me. In a more shallow, wider bowl like a pot or an author, like this 320, you're going to get kind of a more rounded smoke, and honestly I think it's easier to pick up some of the bass notes in a blend. Tilbury is a great example of that, simply because it includes a little bit of Burley with all those wonderful aged Virginias in there. Something that I don't really pick up on much at all when I smoke it in a narrow, taller bowl, like a Dublin. But I pick up a little bit more when I smoke it in an author. And I think that probably accounts for a lot of the variation there. So something to keep in mind when you're smoking blends, especially just straight, unadulterated, well, unflavored for the most part, tobaccos, Virginias, is there's going to be some variation between bowl size, bowl shape. Explore different shapes with a blend, and you may be surprised to find that a blend that you just thought was it's okay ends up being one of your favorite and a go-to all the time in a particular pipe or a particular shape of pipe. I've certainly noticed that. Haunted Bookshop, Cornell and Deal, some of my pipes, that stuff smokes like it's half Perique. I mean, it's just so much spice, so much pepper. And then I have a couple of pipes where I get those red Virginias more out of that blend and that sweetness. So definitely, if you built up a small rotation of pipes, try different bowls with the same blend, and I think you might be surprised to discover some different nuances that you can't pick up in a certain shape. One other thing I want to recommend with a blend like Tilbury H Virginias, I mean, it's just wonderful. It's fantastic. The Burley in here has got to be in very minute quantities because I don't pick it up hardly at all in some bowl shapes. Is if I have time, if I'm going to prepare and set aside some time for me to really enjoy a bowl of pipe tobacco, especially a straight Virginia or a Virginia Perique or a Weber as it is, I love to be able to go ahead and pack that bowl, go outside, give it a good charring light, and go ahead and puff on it for maybe a minute, tamp it down, set it aside, 45 minutes, an hour ahead of when I'm actually going to have that time set aside to smoke the bowl. And it's a happy accident that I've discovered this for myself, just being disrupted right when I'm starting to smoke a bowl of pipe tobacco and having to dash off and do something and then come back to it. But wonderful advantage with pipe tobacco that you don't necessarily get with cigars. Sometimes that can taste pretty rancid to relight a cigar, unfortunately, is with the Virginias, it's almost like all those sugars inside the tobacco, once they've been heated with that charring light, get caramelized. And it brings out just even more sweetness and just such a soft, rounded, desserty sweetness out of this Virginia's. 5100 Red Cake by McClellan is a great example and one I highly recommend you try doing this with. See if you don't see a big difference. Go ahead and give it a charring light. Smoke it for maybe a minute. Tamp it down. Come back to it an hour later. And that it may possibly be, and I hope so because it has been for me and I don't want to be a liar, but it may be the best bowl of 5100 Red Cake you've ever had. And I hope that holds up with a lot of straight Virginias and some of the Virginia Periques. But for me, it certainly has, and it's kind of that delayed gratification and something that you don't always have the convenience of doing. You're not always going to have the luxury of being able to run out, do some pregame on a pipe tobacco, bowl that you're going to smoke an hour later. But when you do, give it a shot. I think you'll really enjoy it. I think you'll also really enjoy Esoterica Tilbury if you can get your hands on it. I found it much easier to get a hold of than some of the other ones that folks just clamor over and you see on eBay 20 seconds later for 3 times the price. Tilbury, I think, kind of flies under the radar a little bit. It seems to be one of those bags or tins that is still holding on once the alerts have gone out and everything else has been snatched up. And it's become arguably my favorite Esoterica blend, so give it a shot. Hope you enjoy it. Till next time, enjoy your pipes. Have a great day.